Hi, everyone, and welcome to Convos and Cohort. We're so glad you're here. This year's books are powerful, tender, and fiercely original. Each one reshapes how we think about identity, lineage, and expression. We're going to keep our introduction short to preserve our time together for reading and conversation. To learn more about these books and authors and how our nonprofit press has been supporting emerging authors since 2018, please follow us on Instagram at First Matter Press or consider joining our mailing list at firstmatterpress.org. We want to thank our 2025 grant sponsors, the Regional Arts and Cultural Coalition, Oregon Cultural Trust, the City of Portland Arts Access Fund, and Multnomah County Cultural Coalition for generously supporting these literary projects. And thank you to our 2025 featured artist, Perlin Tan, whose artwork brings a shared visual depth across all four book covers. Each author will read from their book, and then we'll move into a group discussion on writing rituals and myth making. Feel free to use your Zoom reactions to cheer them on or drop lines in the chat that resonate. We love seeing what moves you. You can also leave your questions in the Zoom chat or Facebook Live comments. Our moderators will bring them to the authors as we are able.
All right. First up, I am so pleased to present Anne-Marie Eyre. So, Anne-Marie Eyre's The Dying Room is a haunting and precise collection exploring transracial adoption and identity. Told in fragments and crossings, the book navigates the blurred lines between origin and invention, history and dream, with tenderness and restraint. The Dying Room is the recipient of the inaugural Prima Materia First Chapbook Award. Anne-Marie joins us from Portland, Oregon. Welcome, Anne-Marie.
Hi, thank you, everyone. The first poem is called I Have Seen Worse Sights Than This. I have seen worse sights than this. God tied my hands the day I was born, bound my wrists in thread cutting red that spooled itself around my arms and caught me by the neck. The thread pulled me ankle skimming across the Pacific, wet and waiting, to cornfields, buried me full like a seed, but I didn't make a sound. Threads can bind, fate overrides chance, lets orphans claim kinship and the kind of love that can only be bought. I was bought, and my price hangs heavy around my neck, grazes my collarbone and chafes against my heart. It cannot be sold. Though I would sell my thread for pennies, set myself loose in faraway cities, rather than be pulled, slow and indifferent, back to the earth, unraveled. After hours of intense labor, the woman held her baby in the halo of her touch for a single moment. The woman could not let herself bond, even though the small moon of her daughter's face peering up in a crying mirror of her own likeness. The baby's face was a perfect blend of the father's features and her own, his nose and her thin whisper of lashes. The next day, she bundled her daughter in a blanket and left her at the police station where she would be found quickly. She left a note pinned carefully to the blanket with a name and a short message. The name was her grandmother's, and the message reminded the baby she would have a better life. She would be loved. She would not be forgotten. They tell me I have lost. They tell me I have lost a homeland, a culture, a family. The word abduction is used to displace my loyalties and hinges on my bedroom door. I do not feel this loss when I open the door of the fridge at 2 a.m. to the cool, bright pool of appetite at my feet while I dig past molding oranges and unsealed bags of lettuce, but rather, I feel lost when I read of loss, when academics write down my price, cite my peers, cite myself to prove scientifically the hole in my being. And I feel lost when I hear of loss, when others like me mourn past lives and things that might have been, when loss turns to anger that can find no clear direction. Night swallows the rest of the world and leaves me floating. Or perhaps night swallows me while the rest of the world goes on living in color. I can feel the tones of black and white seep into the sockets of my own dappled skin, but still I float, my bed adrift in the fissure between continents, while I search for a diagnosis, a 10-syllable fence for my heart and its restless beating. Of all creatures, of all creatures, my body writes illegibly. It cannot hold a pen, cannot read the future etched in its own well-traversed palms. My face remains foreign, even to itself, in the way that lanterns hang in gardens and make a place feel far away. I forget my face sometimes. Mirrors recall the shape of my eyes, the sliver of dark lashes, hair like mine, eyes like mine, skin. My heart is one, self-divided flesh. It is the third lobe of my lung. It too must breathe. Or the woman hurriedly swaddled the baby, her fingers shaking. A small noise from the next room made her pause, ears straining. Her family must not catch her now. The woman picked up the baby who, blessedly, shifted but continued to sleep in silence. The small movement made the woman's heart tighten. The child slept without knowing what disastrous luck it had to be born a girl. With the child in her arms, the woman slipped out into the night. Without being seen, the woman made it to the police station where she deposited the child on a step near the black grate that would soon fill with bicycles once the day broke. The concrete walls stood hard and unforgiving, even as the small baby was placed within their arms. The entrance to the compound loomed overhead. The woman could not leave a note for fear it would be too easily traced back to her. The baby began to wake, and the woman ran. This is not the end, she thought to herself. Soon, she knew, they would try again, and hopefully her next child would have the luck to be born a boy. Revised. Books fill with the same faces you see on money. My wealth is not measured the way you measure yours, not in accomplishment and worth, but in product. I supply what you demand, and exhaust myself learning, educating myself of my own past lives, own history. You will not find me in textbooks. In the curriculum, standardized, sanitized out of my brown hands, I could not find myself. Though I looked for years among white faces, straight faces, male faces, open books to find themselves, I can't find myself. I had to write myself. I live censored and on the brink of silence, imposed by my own desire to please, my silent cells. When I write, the back of my mind fills with my mother. I write for her, or rather, it is for her sake that I pick and choose which parts of myself to share and which parts of myself I will allow to stay. For her, I dilute my languor, try my best to heat it and blow it to something worth keeping displayed in the window, where neighbors can see and comment on its tranquility. I live complicit. Planted yellow, I was grown wholesome and quiet in a white field where my anger feels like declaring war on those I love instead of declaring love for those at war. My last poem is called There is a Time for Many Words. 1. I left at 8 months, too young to remember, thrust onto the sea. I dreamed of returning, of hair that matched mine, and flowering trees, and slipping into a crowd unnoticed. What teenager wouldn't dream of going unnoticed? I imagined eating soups my tongue would know and hearing a song that would fit into the tightly curled cave of my ear. I wished to be Odysseus, come home after 10 years of sailing, unmoored and afloat, to slip back to belonging and hailed as a king, to be known by my scars, the history of my body unchanged over years, and the lines of my palm a bridge to past lives. 2. Part monster, part man, the bridge could barely hold him. The weight of his companion pulled at his elbow and guided him along the rough stones. His eyes were missing, but he could see the way a bat sees, the echoes of pity bouncing off strangers, skimming the hairs on my forearms and blowing away. The smell of raw sewage plumed up from the river below, and I wondered if the smell was worse for him in his blindness. I returned to him in my dreams, the man on the bridge, the man with no eyes. When I return, sometimes I put a few heavy coins in his cup. Sometimes I wash his hair, his feet with my hair. And when the sun rises, I wake and dream of unseeing, of pushing past a sea of strangers I cannot fathom, of lotus blossoms falling into polluted rivers. 3. I fear that lotus blossoms help me forget. My home made me complacent with time-worn images and silkscreen shadows, the true webs get lost in pearls, slipped out of shells with the slick of a knife and scraped into dust to illustrate worth. I am a pro myself. I know that knife, that double edge. It chafes at my skin and the others beside me. It scares me into remembering when I only wish to sleep.
Thanks so much for that, Anne-Marie. Up next, I'm pleased to introduce Violeta Garza. Brava by Violeta Garza is a bilingual gut punch of a debut. These poems claim space in the body, in memory, and in every awkward threshold. Drawing from ancestral memory, queer joy, and the ache of in-betweenness, Garza turns shame into sass and silence into sound. Violeta joins us from San Antonio, Texas today. Violeta, the mic is yours.
Thank you everyone so much for being here today. I've got some friends from Portland and some friends from San Antonio here tonight, so that's a really beautiful collaboration. Tonight I'll be doing 3 poems for y'all. Notice I say y'all because I'm coming from Texas. And I'm going to talk a little bit about myths and about myth making, but also myths as in falsehoods. So the first poem that I'll be reading for y'all tonight is Uno, dos, tres, Ubalde. I'm going to dedicate this particular reading of this poem, which I don't do very often, um, to the people who've lost their lives in the Texas floods this month. In July, there were floods that took the lives of 134 people. Um, and there were 37 children who passed away because the structures were not there for them, as was the case in the shooting of Uvalde on May 24th, 2022. An 18-year-old walked into an elementary school and shot up mostly brown babies who were between the ages of 9 and 11. And it is because it's a heavy poem that I don't do it very often, but I feel called to do this one today for you all. Uno, dos, tres, Ubalde. Uno. An invisible hand rearranges furniture inside my voice box. It is the gatekeeper that keeps me from screaming, stomping, ugly crying my way back to infancy. I don't know that it has my best interest in mind. Dos. Tragedy flows and loops herself, a twisted wire that creates a new crib of air and anguish every day. Tres. A shape no longer human approaches with aggression. We believe that in a split second we put our love and our bodies and our potential between ammunition and a child. May we never find out. Ubalde, in another universe, a 10-year-old comes home from school with her most improved certificate in hand. She asks for chocolate ice cream, her favorite, and hears, sí, mi amor, lo que tú quieras. Thank you. This next poem is called Aires, Aires y más desaires, and I was inspired by Los 13 Aires Cósmicos, which are the 13 heavy winds according to ancient Mexican cosmology. It's the myth of icky feelings, things like jealousy, anger, envy, shame, resentment. These are all teachers, not things to be ashamed about. So, yeah. So this one is also one I don't do very often. And I love this one. This one's called Aires, Aires y más desaires. Dear future self, I am jealous, so very jealous of your peace, your love, your cuddles from which you benefit after all my hard work. Tanto sacrificio, pero no me da pena ni vergüenza sentir tantos celos because you honor the current version of me. Every time you sigh and make art and ripple in lakes of embers and self-forgiveness. I'm blessed in that my poetry still leaves me breathless. I don't ever get tired of it, which is such a gift. Thank you. This next one is the last one I'm doing, and this one is the one that got me love. I found my love while I was performing this poem, and when they saw me perform, they were like, "Who is this woman?" So this is about the myth of bluebonnets. The bluebonnet is the Texas state flower. Um, and yeah, I guess I'm just gonna hop right into it. So, oh, thank you, Syra. I don't get tired of my poems either, or yours either. Okay, so this is the year I finally give a shit about bluebonnets. One. Bluebonnets everywhere, y'all. Bluebonnets on calendars and picture books, strewn all over highways, center stage and profile pics. Most of my Tejana life, I have been immune to fields of Lupinus texensis, always so connected to mitologías de cowboys, que es que chingones. I would think, ay tú, cálmate already. But this year, I mean, damn, I see underneath. It takes more than light, water, and breath to make life. Two. If on a warm afternoon I see a single bluebonnet in someone's front yard, her chin to the clouds, I see a miracle. I see resilience. I see just a bit of attitude. I see the elders who have long taken care of the land. With my eyes on bluebonnet baby, I draw infinity on my heart with my finger and tell her, tú dale, mija, the medicine is inside you. No te dejes. This is your home too. Tú puedes. Breathe for me. I'm breathing for you. Lean into me. I'm leaning into you. Three. Live for me. I'll be living for you soon. Mil gracias. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Violetta. Next, we have a selection from First You Must Destroy the World by Claudia Salibi Savage. A searing poetic reckoning that draws from Arab poetics, erasure, and ancestral memory to confront war, exile, motherhood, and erotic survival. These poems gleam and stagger, holding grief and beauty in equal measure. Claudia joins us from Portland, Oregon, and please join me in welcoming Claudia here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. It's really rich to hear everybody read their poems, like just the best. Can't wait till we're all together in a room too. So Thanks so much. I'm gonna start, with, I have a larger screen, so that's why you're seeing the side of my head like I'm some sort of strange dog looking for a biscuit. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna start with morning sex before I check Al Jazeera. Mothers die, brothers too, mine and yours. Light slants the trees, swifts call and swallow all. Awed by mist, I barely exist. Roll over, under the sheet. Heat, find heat. Who said the roof of the universe begins with the lover's tongue? Stop thinking. Just funk and sweat. Exhale, regret. Once I thought nothing would touch our touching. The moment before we closed the gap, I felt silence envelop our heads, snake down our torsos, led by spit and breath. Loneliness? Sickness? Death? Never. Once I was wrong. But let's hold that feeling of lovers in a bubble, a pink bubble, the flame of an oil lantern on a street where time holds still. Once your breath was the only reason to open my lids to the morning light. Through the frost-laced window I take flight. When you wrap a leg around my hip, pin my lips to the mattress, it is always about this. When we reminisce, it will look like skin abandoning covers. It will look like blushing, crushing whatever idea you had of us. After a week without, we clamor. We jab at each other's weakness to get at the soft meat under the belly. Once, we never made it past noon without a go. The 2-year streak, the time of bliss, the flood after drought, the feast after famine, the euphemism nesting deep inside metaphor. When you reach for my salt-tinged neck and the eaves of my spine, I still tremble. I still know where my hands end up. Your solar plexus as homing pigeon comes to me as sure as I came to it. We origami, wrist, knee, thigh, hip, fold, toes in a place they could not anticipate. If it happens in the kitchen, so much the better. The steam off the meatballs simmer patient, and your back's made sponge to maneuver my leg higher, softer, triangulate, hinge my hinges. This book has, it kind of goes back and forth between erotic coping mechanism and just all the horror going on in the Middle East. Maybe I'll just say that. It specifically was about Syria and my family, but I thought, yeah, so there's a bunch of poems called Siti, which means grandmother in Arabic, in the Levant region of the Middle East. This is Siti learns her address. Don't cross the phantom line from Washington Street to where the Italians and Jews have staked out their blocks. Garlic hung in double helix, planets of cheese, kitchens tight as a fist. Before this, did I even exist? Or was I deep green mountain breath, blown cloud, the daughter of priests? Not Lebanon, but something before the French, the English. Something where Muslims and Christians nodded to neighbors under the shadow of Mount Sanin. Ottoman, Greek, Melkite, Maronite, Muslim, the M in the mouth watering like a salted lemon. Zachle, city of poets and wine. Here, buildings blaze and tremble with the Levant. Little Syria, Arab ghetto, slum. One brother fights the Irish boy, 50 pounds larger, to defend the smallest brother. His nose breaks. The other boy's nose breaks. Always a border somewhere, and those intent on crossing. The streets heave iron. This place wants to send them back. She misses sand. She misses foam. And just, so you guys won't forget, here's another sex poem just for you. Okay, so this is called Hearing Idlib Will Be Bombed by 3 Countries. I Try to Seduce You. And it is for my husband, John. Aletha for John. Perhaps you should sex me here, thicken my blood, take my milk for gall. Blame me for my desire as it mirrors your desire for din. Sizzle and tiny O's and ones placed beside the bed confuse. Grieve my life? No. My body is numinous, magnificent in its multiplying multiplicity, multitudinous, magnanimous, milky hole for your mounting mole. Urbane, profane, nature outwits spoiling, and we'll all be dead soon anyhow, so unroot reason, unmake the bed. My head needs that thing you do from shoulder curve to neck. Crown me Lady Macbeth, conductor of grief's wind. All season my hedonist reach gave these tears to the air. Drown here, drown there, octagonal bed above your swirling head. Hail wind, rain, sun. Hail wind, rain, sun. Hail wind, rain, sun. Hide your fire, so the dark may plot with time. Owls fly above the music, bats trumpet, geometric grids in a triangular rhombus, thick breath, the only answer to sorrow if joy goes swiftly gone. It's an old story. Women's bodies as spoils, when we are as ephemeral as you. The body less vessel than conduit. Children pulled filthy and pulped from rubble, and still you pierce my soft belly with 2 fingers to help me remember what was once housed there. We border cross, pelvis to pelvis, flesh surrender as good as any peace treaty. This worship does not subsume destruction, but its aftershocks ripple the dust we fools create. Try not to die. Okay, well, here's one more. Sorry, it's not a sex poem, but this is the last one. It's called Terrorist, and I wrote this one deeply thinking about both my grandmothers, one whose family died in the Holocaust, the other one who had many relatives die in the Lebanese Civil War, and boy, they really liked each other. I kind of wish they were both here to have a conversation with many people in the world right now, just about stop your BS and hurting each other. So this is called Terrorist, and it's for both of them. Was it the Oklahoma City bombing? No. It was my grandmother's living rooms. Meditations on Germany, Iran, Lebanon, Israel, from the French, terroriste, 1795, to take down a king, guillotine for injustice, or 1920, to colonize a country. One grandmother could name hers. Hitler killed her, she said, fingering a photo of my great-aunt's curls. Terrorist equal fanatic, one who causes terror, but also terrorist equals those who seek to purge perceived difference, to create the world in their image. Someone who, as Voltaire said, persecutes his brother because he is not of his opinion. My other grandmother would say, fear your neighbor. They'll lend you milk one month, hit your feet to the car's bumper the next. Both grandmothers assumed everyone who wasn't us wanted us dead. We, you, are an impediment. We, you, who cause alarm, dread. We, you, who cause panic. My grandmothers are dead. I hardly leave the house now. Signs everywhere demand justice. The word gives me hives. When did here become here? Was it us or you? who changed the flag from symbol to spear. Are we fighters? Are we clear? I am uncomfortable with my own face. My rage sparks daily. For my daughter, I hug my chest, breathe into my rapid heart. Stop now, I say to the mirror. Stop now, terrorist. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Claudia. And finally, for our last author, we have William Palpitations by Nawa Angel A.H., a genre-defined debut that blends poetry, photo memory, erasure, and 2 decades of queer love letters. Part drag spell, part orchid archive, this book pulses with matrilineal memory and lush embodied ritual. Nawa joins us today from Tacoma, Washington. And Nawa, take us into the world of the Welling.
I'm just so honored to have shared this Zoom stage with such decadent poets. Here we go. We're gonna just dive in. This first one goes like this. I wanted to make another dance, but this is the only way I can move right now. This one is Letter. Love, I wish we could be today and tomorrow. You never forgive meaning to my always tomorrow has gone. You're forever not. You need me. I'm wishes to whatever, here to time affection. You comfort you. And since it is a 19th especially sweet, profound shortcoming, pleasure continue. I found birth on the 12th. I miss you. Could I steal you in 1990? Should a million Junes best come back? There couldn't be a better beginning with after that, the very best it takes to make a year. Everyone takes us, makes to make a very happy year, health and cheer. It's always and you always, always too many. Just accept this day. I hold that you are dreams. Here we go, everyone. Buckle up, because this is a 4-pager. This one is called On the Potential of Misgendering a 40-Year Courtship. Rico fits the suit I never got to buy for her. Her smize is even far away, less performative and caring. What I mean is I want to call her Nanai mother. Tita, like the mother that mothers my mother to mother me, gay mommy who teaches a closeted gay mommy to love her even gayer children, new mommy who tells us the truth of our biological mommy, one mother and a dad I begged for, or mom. Moms? 2 gays embraced before me in the middle of TAC Airport, after waiting for 3 hours, after crying at every other Love Fest reunion, in attendance, the ones who mattered. Overlooked, all of us driving in, flying in from out of state, materials, 1. Hand-drawn Mickey Mouse paper, greeting procured from stranger asking 2. Who's coming? Who's coming? 1. Pen and paper. Everyone there to celebrate, to love out loud, to love wins, to live, laugh, Kodak moment, Hallmark, disturb, then finally, Anara Wood Armoire exits the long line of immigration, Rice water mixed with the last visitation, the last you know what. A peck flies from Vonda's lips after she runs up, like a young child hoping to be scooped the way it should have been, but Takai was in Japan. Oh no, excuse my technical difficulty. My head has popped up. In a money-made backache, he didn't find out Vanda was exported till too late. Rico dodges my mother. The camera sends back the greetings, sends back the whole ordeal. A sea of strangers watch. We, also strangers, hearts clutched like pearls, as if Celine Dion was Jack, kissing Rose in Titanic, as if, is this Harana about us? Perhaps I blinked and missed it. Perhaps Rico, Cancerian shell shock that Vanda initiated anything at all. Perhaps this love is not for us to love. The skylights in the airport should be called grief traps. Wet rain putters with a lead rejection on Kilik, on Paru Paru wings. Where do the butterflies rest when the weather forecasts a touchdown without touch? Still, all of us wind chimes, squeal, shouts, riot blur, parade blur like it's Pride 1969. We ruckus with our esophagus riling up behind our KN95 masks. My mother hushes us, removes her eyes. Two wilted buds enclosed her around her 19-year-old hopes. I wish I knew what those hopes were. What desires keep her unmoving? What illusions promise her silhouettes the real deal? A light bulb glimmers behind her ojos, sturdy brown Bengue pine cones, where a maybe sets heavy on her recollection of stolen moments. I mean, stolen as never taken between each other. Martial law taking them in, saying, kiss now. Display untouched insiders for Duterte's army man. I wasn't there, but maybe the kiss landed before the baton. I wasn't there. The need to humiliate present, then masturbate over and out. There, at least they didn't die. Her iris pops. For the rest of the visitation, I'll never see her replace it. We stand next to her, all glow, in the dark filaments twisting like bulbs, placing our hands over already lit sparklers. How dare we become a fanfare, a welcome basket, a carnival? Whoosh. Thanks everyone for standing into that one. Our next one is titled, Suppose There Are Two Sides of the Story. She ran away, a rebel. Hi, kiddo, I made trouble. I wonder who is us. Who could sew a wedding gown for the whole town to wear? Could it be, never was, be? Is it every island who asked what? What's barangay? I wonder, her guise of duty. Maker, don't you miss us? Her wrist, her face, her controlling, the bride she was never documented to be, every tita who asked, where's your husband? Her truer truth. And we have, I believe, one more. Okay, y'all. You're holding an orchid in your palms. This book is made of orchids. Lucky you, you are holding the ass of the orchid. Go ahead, smack it. You can. I know you want the back of the book in your right palm. Your open left palm messes up the orchid facade fine. It has an undelicate spine, but don't tell anyone that. This story is in your hands. Choke it by slowly lifting your palm to the side lobes. Avoid the avoidance. You are the tree in which I root on. You are the pot in which I get shoved into. So hold me. Please hold me. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much for that, Nawa. Give me just 1 second here to pin all of the authors for our discussion. All right. Thank you all so much for reading and sharing your work so generously. I just wanted to make a quick space holding note before we dip into the discussion that Violetta is in a different time zone and will need to slip away a bit early for another poet event tonight. So if you see her leave, that is why. And to begin our conversation, I'd love to ask the group what rituals, daily, seasonal, or spiritual, shape your own writing practices. And I'll let you take it from there.
I'm gonna go ahead and go if that's okay. Yeah, I love this question. Daily, seasonal, or spiritual is what really gets me about this question. And I think it's really important to give gratitude for the abundance that comes through making connections, through the work coming easily, through having random memories from that one time in fifth grade that something weird happened, and then all of a sudden you're writing a poem about it. Like I really, really lean into that. So I'm really grateful to that. I think I also I journal quite a bit on paper and use pen. And I love, Nawa, how your poem talked about paper and pen. So can I give it to you to take over for this?
Yes, yes. And just as an Access Needs editor, fam, do you mind throwing that question in the chat? I know we have a doc, but my brain's still speeding from reading. So as I know it, we're talking about ritual in different times and different timings, correct? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I feel like this book is a result of me going through a Saturn's return for folks who are like astro freaks. It's a result of like me literally living my life as a ritual and how my own mother was going through her second Saturn's return. So I just feel like there was something in the cosmos. And then like fun fact, our little book launch reading will be like the day after my mother's birthday. So there's something that just kind of feels like hard to describe about spiritual and writing practice. I feel like it's like, what does it mean to feel chosen by like the image or the spirit of something, and how do you choose it back? So for me, the ritual is how do I get to be in conversation with what it means to feel like that connectivity, and how can I in my like kapwa, which is like this interconnection, like hold that thread. Um, I want to throw it to Claudia. If you're, I don't know if we're all doing the question, but if we are, then I'm going to throw it to Claudia.
Thanks, Noah. I want to be you, where I still feel that like spiritual connection. Sometimes in my daily life, this question like threw me for a loop. Years ago, I did this podcast for parent artists, and it mostly was just us sitting around drinking way too much wine and beer and going, oh my gosh, remember when we could sleep and we like had a brain and we could make any kind of art? I mean, that was pretty much what the conversations were. But I will say this, that the thread that has still continued, even while raising a child who's now 12, I can't complain anymore, right? But about being sleepless is that thread of the natural world for me. I can't even access anything artistic, poetic, spiritual, find a line, do anything unless I'm outside, feeling the wind,
taking that moment to look at the sky. I just can't do it. Like if I'm sitting at a desk, like forget about it. It just doesn't even occur to me. So I think I'm a huge advocate of just being outside every day, even if it's in like the pouring rain. My neighbors think I'm completely insane, but isn't that who we are as poets? Like we are. We're like out there, like drinking the water from the sky, going like, give it to me. So that's I'll just say that. I think I'll start there. Maybe that is my spiritual path. Is like just kind of going. How do I find connection? Yeah. So Anne Marie, you go. I like this. We're tossing the baton. This is good.
Yeah, very like good student, passing it to one. Um, and actually this I was really excited to hear your all of your answers for this question because I feel like my writing practice is very like I write tons or I write nothing. And so kind of developing my own writing practice is something that I'm trying to do, and I feel like you all have really great insight there that I can learn from. It's funny when you're talking about going outside because I think I resisted writing nature poems for a really long time. I feel like I just wanted nothing to do with like the pastoral. I really wanted to just do like everyday like domestic poems in a way and kind of reclaim those. So it's kind of interesting hearing that. And now I'm in Portland and I'm trying to be outside more and I'm trying to like be more Pacific Northwesty. And I feel like it is kind of changing my writing practice a little bit. I feel like it was very like head down at night at a desk, and that was fine. But it's very interesting seeing kind of now how it's changing a little bit. And another important part of my writing practice is definitely just reading other poets. Whenever I feel stuck just reading other words, really, I always feel like I need to start responding and writing. And so from that kind of flows other things. And that's actually something I really have admired about you, Violetta. I feel like you have such a rich canon that you're drawing from when you're writing. And I'd actually love to hear more about that. I've been enjoying your like Instagram, like shouting out the like Chicana poets that you admire. And yeah, I would love to hear more about how you feel like you're writing into that canon.
Yeah, actually, that was an idea that it was the generic idea of like going with community, going with people that you aspire to sometimes be, because like the when you read the books, you're like, oh, I wish I'd written that book. I wish I'd written that poem or whichever. I was talking about with Ash, who's one of our editors, co-founder of First Matter Press, and I came up with this idea, kind of in tandem of like, what if I don't make it all about me and like my writing, but also like throw the ball, kind of as we're doing right now, to other poets that have really, really inspired me. And thus far, the strategy is to alternate between poets I don't know, that I really admire, and local poets here in Texas, because I think it's really, really important that as we amplify our own voices to bring other people with us, because there's space for all of us. Like those of us who are here right now, being like I I love what we're doing right now, but even the people who are participating right now, like you all have the power too if this is something that you want to do. So I would lean into that community. So I hope that it's a sustainable thing that I can do for the next couple of years, because I have so many books of poetry that I really want to see what other people, if I can bring one of these like Latina poets to someone who's never heard of them, then I will have done well. So thank you for noticing. With social media, it's like, is anybody even noticing? Does anybody care? So it's clear that you do. So thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Anne Marie, can I ask you more about the domestic? Violetta, that's beautiful. Yeah, I want all the time to be like, can I shout out all my friends, or does everyone just think I'm like only talking about my friends? But I love them. I love the work you make, right? That's the thing. It's like no, I'm not doing it just to like be that person. I'm doing it because I love them. But I was curious, Anne Marie, yeah, like the domestic, because I was gonna when we were talking about ritual, I was actually gonna do the whole thing about yeah, I cook a lot, like it's sick. Okay, you guys, when you come to Portland, it's gonna get weird. But what I mean by that is that isn't the time when I feel inspired to write. I'm just like in it, like oh man, I gotta feed all these people. I'm exhausted. So what do you mean by that? I'm curious.
That's so real. I guess it's less that I am inspired when I'm like doing dishes as it is like there was a certain point in my life that I had just moved into a new apartment and felt like deep, deep anxiety about like home decor. And I think it was just, it sent me kind of into this existential spiral of like decorating the home and being a homemaker equaling kind of motherhood and being a mother and feeling like this absence or gap in my ability to do that. And I think, I mean, you can kind of see in my poetry collection talking about motherhood and being adopted. I think there is kind of this like insecurity about my like ability to like homemake and be warm and like not provide, but just like create kind of that like wholesome, nurturing place. And so when I was just staring at these blank walls, I would just like go into this spiral of like, I can never be a mother. And so then I ended up writing poetry, which ended up kind of being like domestic poems, but almost like anti because they were just like full of anxiety about those domestic things. And so I like leaned into that for a while and I think I'm over that now. I like still have a blank wall in my house that I'm like looking at, but I think things are getting better in that way. Um, but yeah, I'm curious to kind of throw the question back to you. How do you kind of balance writing toward the domestic while also feeling just like that every day? Like doing dishes is not necessarily like the most creatively fulfilling thing. So how you kind of balance those things with like motherhood and writing and your artistic practice? Maybe that's an impossible question.
That's an amazing question, and I think everyone will be asleep if I honestly answer it. I no, I mean what I mean by that is like I think when we talk about ritual, right? It's fascinating because there's so many poets. I'm thinking about this like in terms of women, okay? Like there's so many women poets who don't get the level of appreciation for the level of balancing act that they did to hold together whatever the domestic is with being able to create. And so I just that is a question that is always sort of at the forefront of my mind. And one of my mentors, Alice Notley, died recently. Actually, she was somebody who was going to blurb my book, but she was dying, and so she couldn't blurb my book, which is a random thing to say right now. But what I'm saying about that is she once said to me, I mean, her poems on the domestic are unbelievable because she talks about how pissed off she was sometimes that her kids were like, she had to attend to them, and she's like, no, I have a fucking line in my head. I want to do my line. Like, go away. Like, she just wanted to kick their butt because she's like, I have to actually. There's this human that requires my attention, and so I think I go back and forth between um, my own narcissism, where I'm like, thank God I had this other person instead of just swirling in my own crazy, versus that I have to attend to this other person and not just be thinking about this poem constantly. We all have this, whether we have kids or not, right? We all have other human beings we're responsible for that take us out of that space of like self obsessing just about our art. And so, yeah, I think about this question a lot because I don't think that work for women, especially who are caretaking elders or children or whatever, we just don't get the respect and the understanding that like that permeates everything. Like we cannot avoid it. So like, yeah, just saying. All right, thank you for that question. I could go on and on. I wanna now. I'm curious. I'm gonna get you back in here, girl, because I just I'm gonna like blah blah blah. It's just the New Yorker in me. I'm sorry. No, go. I'm curious how about these amazing questions you have in your work about your mother's journey at the same time as your journey. I want you to talk more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I read it today where it was like, oh, maybe this is like not for me. Maybe this love is not for me, about me, has nothing to do with me. It's not for us. And I think there is like this tension that I hold about what does it mean um to be like the QT elder for my QT elder, and then also like consider my own sort of creative fertility in that, or the impossibility of fertility. There's so many questions. I think also I think of it as a haunting. Like I just felt haunted, literally by orchids. Like it's still happening. Look at my screen. Just haunted by them. And yeah, I felt like in terms of getting into the myth of everything, there's like this one of the anchors of my text that kind of is in just sort of the subtext of it all is a mythology of the willing orchid, which includes like this fairy or the Diwata. And I got to thinking like the fairy's home is the orchid, but the orchid is getting extinct. It got into sort of like this blurred edge of like, what is land? What is body? What's the difference? Um, and then there was just this tension of like, what happens when there's no more homes for Diwata, or what happens when, uh, I remyth it as like, is the orchid also the Diwata, or is the Diwata the home? And where is home, and what is like the privilege of being rooted? And I essentially drag an orchid encyclopedia in order to like, as a part of it, to sort of wrangle with these questions. And if I'm going to be completely honest, like this is peak pandemic, and I was like in Filipinix herbalism course, and I had done a kava ceremony, and I was next to my orchids, and I totally got possessed by orchids. And so I needed to depossess myself because there was all these other stories I wanted to say, but this one felt like such an excavation. And it's actually one of the like hardest things I've ever done is to even attempt writing this and to even attempt reading it. It's like one of those things where I'm like, I don't really want to read it, but the telling of my remyth and what it means to be biomythographic and an embodiment needed to happen. So it didn't have anything actually to do with my desire, even if the erotic is so like steeped in there. This actually had nothing to do with like my desire. And as a hedonist, that's hard. I was like, what in the masochism are you asking me to do? So that's a little bit about like some of my like tension, or like even the frustration of like the process of this work. And yeah, I'm curious about like if, either of you like how did you all find release in the like tension of the like world or worlds that were just like orbiting in your interior and your exterior?
That is a great question. I think the answer for me is that there really wasn't a release. There's like, I think a tension between in the book of wanting knowledge, not wanting knowledge, and wanting to know. So trying to kind of write my own mythology, but then at the same time wanting to like just close my eyes and forget, and kind of like this ignorance is bliss. And I think at the end of the final poem, which is the final one I read tonight as well, um, it kind of ends with the choosing to not know, the choosing to like forget. But then right after that, then kind of comes the afterword, which is just, I think me still just not wanting to choose, where the poem ends one way, and then I was like, but I have to add an afterword that then like flips it again, where the very ending of the afterword is this like meeting of myself and being like, oh, all these like questions and things, the struggles I've had growing up are a product of, I mean, you brought up the word haunting, but like being haunted by this kind of like black hole of my past, like the lack of history. It's kind of like a confronting at the very end. So, and it's interesting when I first read it or wrote it, that was just not, I started writing it like a few years ago and I ended on this like desire to not know. And then once I was part of this cohort, ended up rewriting it, then I ended up adding this afterwards where there is kind of like this more direct confronting. And so that's kind of something I just realized now in this moment as I'm talking about it. Um, but I would love to hear Claudia's answer to this because I don't think I really have an answer to this.
I like that answer. I don't know. Now, can you go back to your question? And we're totally like completely destroying our moderators, by the way.
Oh my God, yeah,
Like
moderators.
we have moderators, but we're off on a
I know
road.
we're so
We're just
off
going.
script.
What was your question? It was about the mythology. What
Well,
was
I was just wondering about like right, like maybe I'll use mythology, like the interior mythologies and the exterior mythologies, and how you find like release between any tension. Hashtag sex poem.
always the sex bomb?
Actually, I'm just like, please talk about your sex poems.
No, it's funny. So many years ago, I have a very dear friend, and by the way, this is so random, but she's a poet and she's one of the like most beautiful people, like inside and out, like whatever. She's always wearing like the thigh high boots, like she's one of those people, okay, all the time. But what she does is she likes to research like Catholic, I don't know. She goes to like libraries where there's, I see this, I know nothing, but she goes to libraries where there's like, history of Catholicism or whatever, and there's like priests walking around. I'm like, what are you doing in those booths? Like, what are you doing right now? Like, what is happening with you? So, what I'm saying is, like, she has joked with me many times. She's like, I'm always trying to find my way to God, and you're always trying to find your way to an orgasm. And I'm like, truth. And also, I think those are the same thing. So
They're the same thing. What is this false duality? What did she
right,
do to
right.
that?
Because I feel like that for me, the reason that I can never seem to get away from the erotic is because I don't understand how we exist with these incredibly hard, painful questions, which I actually was talking to my friend Armin yesterday. I had coffee with, and I was telling him, I'm like, I'm totally freaked about my book coming out because, like, I don't want to be asked some of the questions I know people want me to answer, and maybe all of us are having this issue, right? Like, our books touch on topics that never go away, like war never ends, and these sorts of really difficult questions about people being expendable in various ways. And so I think for me, I'm obsessed with like what is the idea of like belonging and country. I'm obsessed with this. I cannot stop thinking about it. It's probably the question of all my work is like who holds us? What do we do? And so I come back to the erotic because I'm like, well, that's guaranteed, right? Like my partner is the person in my life that holds me and sees me. All this other stuff, like where I belong in the world, who's in charge of countries and what they do to their populace and other populations, like we can scream all we want, but often it's like, who has the gun? I don't know what else to say. And so I think I'm always struggling with that tension of like, how do we protect our children? How do we protect each other? And I talk about the erotic as relief from that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really resonate with that. And I also want to advocate for like a stamp that says erotic guaranteed.
Yes, people, it's very important though, don't you think? Like Anne-Marie too, like taking care of people, domestic, like they're right. These things are like non-negotiable. Like all humans should have them in addition to shelter and food and safety and all those things. But they're kind of non-negotiable that we take care of each other and we seek pleasure and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd add that it's non-negotiable and also we can't help ourselves. So like, or people are just in denial and they're just doing it anyways.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's where I'm at with that. Thank you for sharing all. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Thanks for
entertaining.
asking, you guys. It's good.
Yeah.
Ash, do you have questions for us? I want to bring.
I cannot.
I can toss a question in. Let's see here. Has a piece of your writing ever taught you something unexpected about your own mythology? I think we had an example of that just come up from Anne Marie, but maybe there are more that you guys are thinking of.
I think I have one. Um, Again, right? Not steeped in my own desire. And I think like what does it mean for me to be in this like spectrum of like desire and what does it mean when I'm open to what's choosing me? And like sort of tending to like what is queer love and my lineage and where does it get to live? I had like been repeatedly writing this line, like, I will never forgive these unnatural systems for. And it kept being about like all the ways QT love, all the ways queer love in my lineage, all the ways. And then I like realized that I had to write all of that for me to realize that I am many people's queer, trans, diasporic love. I'm my mother's first QT love. And I thought that like broke me into pieces of like, oh, even though I've never heard her say it in that way, I had to like really listen for it. And I think in working with letters, like when I was reading that first piece, because there are these letters that I inherited and they're written in English and they're in this like Hallmark voice where I was like, what are you doing, mom? What is this? And I had to really look underneath, like I had to use like erasure and I had to use to find the actual like the secret third thing, the truth. And so I feel like that was happening very meta at me too, of like, okay, you're doing this process exterior, but it's also like literally unraveling me in my interior. So that is like something that like delighted me because sometimes I don't always understand like why do I need it to be a drag of an orchid encyclopedia? And why am I looking at these letters and why does and then I realize, oh, because the way colonization worked, at least in Philippines diaspora, was like, here's some priests. And they're asking like the indigenous folks, do you believe in spirits? Do you have dreams? Do you, etc. And they have to say no. So throughout my work, there's sort of like this, and I think this is a very trans poetics thing, where like it's like you're defining by what it's not because of the systems we're in. So like non-binary or like I don't know, like sex markers and shit. And so there's something I'm trying to do around archive where I'm like, we're trying to resist not defining something by what it's not, but rather like what it is. But I have to go through the playbook of survivability that my mom had to do, and like my queer ancestors had to do, and my trans ancestors had to do by being like, no, I don't know. No, I don't know. Non-zero. I don't. And then the thing just like blips out because I feel like I've tricked the system because I've said no enough. It's not this. And you just say no enough, and then there's the yes, and suddenly it's yes, yes, yes. Like this is the yes, and I'm in the yes territory. Trans poetics, I'm gonna drop some links, but Joy Ladin, who is this amazing trans woman, I just met her. She talks about trans poetics. She's like the first out trans woman in this Orthodox Jew academic institution. She writes about like trans theology and highly recommend. Then there's this other book on night boats that I recommend y'all to read because I feel like you have to experience trans poetics to like, and maybe you won't ever understand, but like there's also like very like stark academic essays, but I'm definitely I'll throw them in the chat. But yeah, there's one of the ideas is like, what does it mean? Like, here's an exercise Joy gave me. It's like, write down I and define yourself for like people you don't know, and then define yourself for your people, and then just see what happens. Do you start describing yourself as the documentation things and the check boxes? And maybe that's part of it, but what happens after you move past that? Like, how are you saying I? And so there's something about like trans poetics that got me to be like, I am an orchid. Like, what? Like, I am an orchid, or I come from an orchid. And then that gets into like, the indigenous felt sense of anyways, I'm rambling, but I could talk about trans poetics forever. Yes, Joy Ladin. Okay, I'm tossing it to someone else because now I have to do all this like library research real quick. So either of you, please take the orchid mic from me.
I want to say one thing about the mythology. Was the original by the way, Nala, that was amazing, and I just kind of was like, maybe this is what we do for 15 minutes. We just let Nala talk about work. I mean, like, why not? Like, let's do that. And she, like, I don't know.
I'm down.
More from the Naropa University situation where it's like, why is the poetry reading 4 hours? And wait, was there just one poet who got up there? What the heck is going on? Okay, anyway, everyone's high. No, I was gonna say that the question about mythology, I struggled with that question. I think Ash, we put that question out. I struggled with that question. Then I realized, like, oh, so I was a musician from the time I was 4, like way before I was a poet, and then I met my husband, who's a jazz musician, and he's like one of the most open. I mean, I say jazz musician, but he does everything. He does punk. He does everything. So he doesn't care. He's just like, let's just do this and bend sound. And I realize, like, my poetics, that's the myth in my work, is maybe like I'm so interested in how things feel in the mouth and how people receive them. We're gonna have a little tape that comes out with this book of stuff where we've been working together and doing stuff with my work, and because I think that's how I like to shift whatever's happening. I want the experience of the poems, yes, to have meaning in some way, but I want more the experience in the chest. Like, I want people to have that feeling of like, I don't know what just happened, but something happened, and now I'm shifted. And I feel deeply that often that doesn't happen unless someone has a really deep sonic experience. For myself, I read very heady stuff. I'm very into like really complicated whatever, but then what I realize is like what makes me weep is the thing where I'm like, what just happened to me? I feel shifted, changed sonically. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear your like vibe of like transform, like there's like this moment of transformation. And I like wonder, here's my question. I is like, what are the conditions that you all need for that to happen, for like for the mythology to surprise you? Like, what is like the working conditions? Like, is it just like sometimes it needs to be an insomnia moment, or is it like what were the conditions for surprise to happen?
You mean in the creation of the work or in the final, like?
Yeah, just like the creation, the process of it, the like what took what, how did, I guess I'm asking like what is the ingredients for surprise, like to be delighted or to be like changed by something. What was the main question? Unexpected. Like
Yeah,
what has it
I'm
taught?
thinking about, I like when I sometimes don't even completely understand what happened. I think for me it's that. I need mystery in some regard. Yeah. I needed to feel I found the whole I always find the editorial process. I tend to be one of those people, like I sent out my book, everyone's like, wow, it's so amazing. We don't know what the heck you're doing. And I'm like, I kind of don't know what I'm doing either. So join the party. But I mean, I know what I want at the end, but I don't know how I'm getting there. And I know it when I'm there because that mysterious quality is preserved in some way on the page, you know? Like, no, I know you have this issue too. Like, we want to perform the work, we don't know how it's going to manifest finally. Sometimes for me, the book makes me nervous because I'm like, it's just staying there on the page. What what will happen now?
I really, Anne Marie, I want to hear, but definitely having something in a physicality and not ephemeral has me dysphorically, euphorically surprised sometimes where I'm like, oh,
It's just one version. That's why I like jazz. It's one version. You know, my husband worked with Roscoe Mitchell. That man, I think he's 90 now. He like he works on like one or two pieces and he does it 40 different ways. I like that. Variation, like letting the poetics have variation. All right, Anne Marie, talk. No one I have big mouths.
I feel like if it makes me feel better, I feel like whenever I read any of your works, it's different every time. Like I feel different things. I like read at different speeds. So I feel like even though it's written down, there is some of that still improvisation there. Hopefully that makes me feel better. But I do feel like also that is what surprises me when I find things in my work is honestly hearing like other people read it or respond to it, like the way that they read what I've written or the things that resonate with them are always different, of course, than like how I would read it or what would resonate with me. And so sometimes it makes it like deeper in a way than even sometimes I meant it to be, where people will find something in it that I'm like, totally meant to put that there, totally meant to put that there. Um, discovering things, discovering how smart I am by accident. But yeah, I think like working through our cohort, hearing everyone else who's so smart respond to things did because of that make my writing so much better. And I was really able to like the work I brought in and submitted to the work that's coming out now is just so different because of that. And I am curious about how just like hearing about your experiences going through this cohort, because for me it was just such a learning experience just about my own writing and self on top of just like learning about obviously all of you and your work.
yeah, the editing process grueling. I don't know. Like it is like I'm gonna bring up masochism again. And perhaps this is not all the time, but like again, masochism can be fun. So I had to just be like, ooh, what pain feels good today? What feels good to feel? Yeah, I honestly, if I'm being really vulnerable, like, right, we're gonna get these books that we have one more look at them, and I'm already just being like, wow, I could really edit something to land of time. Like, we could really just do it. And I like really appreciate hearing Anne Marie, like how you say, like, I could read this many different ways because, yeah, being coming from like an ephemeral space of like performance, there's kind of like it happens, and now all you get is the memory of it. And maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But when there's sort of something sort of like stoically on the page, is so blaring. Yeah, that feels like, I don't know, some days it was like a word was life or death, like a decision. I thank you, Ash. I just want to say thank you, Ash. Thank you, Ash, my editor, who like allows me to be swirling in form, especially as someone who does not come from like a creative MFA writing stitch. Like I don't always know what the fuck people are saying. Like, I don't know. Oh, I'm doing hybrid. Great. Like, cool. You tell me like what you see, and I'm gonna go research what you just told me. And I totally meant to do that, right? Totally meant to do that. But it made me really also as like a interdisciplinary person find, right, this theme of like, what does it mean to choose back? How do I sculpt? Sometimes I had to be a sculptor. Sometimes I had to be a painter. Sometimes I had to be a mover. Sometimes I had to be like just the scribe. I'm like, this is like, I'm not here, it's not my business. And my role is the scribe. And so I had to find myself in editing that way. And then I needed you all to tell me like what, what you were seeing, because it is a little bit insanity. Claudia, how's it going for you? How's this going?
Okay, I'm cracking up. I'm also mindful of the time. So I thought I'd take a moment because I know we have like just a few minutes left. I want to be mindful. I also want to do a shout out to Lauren because how it's going for me, Lauren's my editor. Like how it's going is that Lauren's like my therapist, okay? Because I'm like constantly going, I can't help, and then like I can't have another 4 people read my book. I can't do anymore. But then towards the end, yes, it's the brilliance. Anne Marie's super smart. Yeah, like I love how we're just admitting all the things. We're like, we didn't. Sure, we intended that. That was intentional.
That's the
No,
beauty of writing, it's
no,
about how you
I know.
read it, not how it's written.
It's like we're delighted by our genius and we didn't know, and how beautiful we're coming out. We're genius. Like, who knew? I didn't. Like, oh, great, And I think it's like now we get to own up to it because now y'all are gonna buy a book.
That's
You
right.
just gotta see it.
That's
See it
right.
for yourself.
Gotcha.
That's a great place to leave it. Thank you, authors, for this rich and very wise conversation this evening. I will leave it there and pick it back up at our next Convos and Cohort event on Sunday, August 17th. And thanks so much to everyone here for joining us today to celebrate these incredible books and authors. Please also mark your calendars for our big release party on Saturday, October 4th at Literary Arts in Portland. We'd really love to see you there. And before these books hit stores, pre-orders are still open at firstmatterpress.org through August 31st. And this is the absolute best way to support these authors, as 100% of these proceeds go directly to them. Thanks so much, everyone, and good night.